I was in 8th grade in my honors English class when I first heard the rule show don't tell, which since then I know has become the backbone for all forms of visual mediums, and I think should always be highly regarded as such. It's what the silent era depended on before talkies came around after all, but one could argue that it especially rings true for quite possibly the greatest and most limitless medium, animation. From the span of an entire married life trimmed down to mere minutes, a man feeling betrayed by the one he called brother as his motivations distort in the blink of an eye, to reaction shots that feel like they go on for an eternity as we witness characters process the difficult situations they may be in. However, there's an entire series that uses this rule to its full potential. This is Primal, the story of a caveman befriending a T-Rex as they battle the dangers of the prehistoric world. The show was created by one of the most influential people working in the animation industry today, Genndy Tartakovsky, best known for Samurai Jack, Dexter's Laboratory, and that one clip of a cancelled Popeye movie from Sony Pictures Animation. Now I gotta be honest, before Primal, the only Genndy-related thing I was familiar with were the first 2 Hotel Transylvania movies, and they're whatever, I guess. Really, the only reason why I watched Primal in the first place was because it was a recommendation from one of my favorite YouTubers, Saberspark. His description of the lack of dialogue and stunning art direction piqued my interest, but if you watched my channel for some time now, there's an aspect of the series I would consider the catch. The gore. This show is, oh, so very gory.
Holy God, what are you showing me? His head. Come on! Open your eyes!
This series is not for the faint of heart or the sensitive stomachs. Seriously, don't watch this show while you're eating. Take the most gruesome animated series or movie you've seen and multiply it by 6. I'm sure people who know me would be surprised I managed to watch the first season a second time, as well as the new second season for the sake of this video, let alone at all. But man, was Saber right about the lack of dialogue. It instantly makes it stand out from all the other animated works today, and it's kind of worth the viewing experience. Its use of atmosphere stood out so much for me, in fact, that it made me want to make an entire video essay about it, and here we are. I will be discussing seasons 1 and 2, so people who haven't seen this show at all can only go so far before being spoiled. You've been warned. So let's begin, shall we? I believe the decision to have no dialogue was used to keep the audience focused on the animation, action, and character moments, which is just a stroke of genius. It also keeps you on edge, afraid that someone or something will suddenly pop into frame, such as this is Spear. Get it? Because he has a spear. He's a Neanderthal who is, how would you describe him?
Ooga booga!
Yeah, that's it. He's hunting food for his family. By the way, how are they doing?
Holy God, what are you showing me? His head. Come on!
Well, I think that's all I should be allowed to show you, for both your and my sake. This is all during the first 5 minutes or so of the entire series, mind you. So how did Spear react to this? Not great, I can tell you that. I mean, who wouldn't? Now having lost his whole family before his eyes, he doesn't know what to do with himself anymore. All he has left of them are his memories and the drawings in their home cave. But that isn't enough, so he considers his last resort. It takes him all night, in fact. However, he decides to continue surviving for the sake of his family, but is now ready for vengeance. This is where Fang comes in. Get it? Cause she has Fang. Spear encounters her, believing to be the one who massacred his mate and 2 children, until he discovers she has 2 of her own. But this is Primal we're talking about, so no one is safe for long. The real killers come in to attack. Spear and Fang impressively fight off some of them, but her children soon meet the same fate as his. After mercilessly annihilating the leader, Spear decides to part ways. However, he finds Fang joining him later on, so they now decide to travel alongside each other, bonded by tragedy. And not a single word was spoken during those 20 minutes. And to be honest with you, Why would there be? This isn't meant for the sake of commercial gain, with celebrity voice actors to put butts in seats. Primal is meant to show that adult animation can be more than what 13-year-old edgelords believe to be the pinnacle of entertainment. That animation in general is not just for kids, and that, hey, the US can create complex stories with appealing animation for mature audiences too. We see a man losing it all, almost ending it all, with nothing but the score and facial expressions. He wasn't gonna let grief take him out that way. And I fear a lot of that raw emotion would have been lost if he had just said, wow, I can't believe I lost my family. What am I going to do with my life? But even now that man and dinosaur have teamed up, there are many more dangers that lie ahead. The rest of season 1 follows an episodic approach. Our heroes encounter many prehistoric, even supernatural beings on their journey. Spear and Fang initially have a difficult time working together, but eventually find a way after defeating episode 2's titular river of snakes. I think it might be the weakest outing out of the first season, since an unlikely duo not getting along at first has been done before, but for being the sophomore episode of the entire thing, that's not too much of a critique. Since there are no words being said, Primal lets the sound design have the spotlight instead, and the soft pattering of rain on Fang's skin while she and Spear have a standoff might just be one of, if not my favorite. Especially because it contrasts with how it contacts Spear. Oh, and I guess there's a couple shots that go hard as well. Whatever.
Uh-oh.
Don't tell me. We're about to go over a huge waterfall.
Yep,
Sharp rocks at the bottom?
most likely.
Bring it on.
Episode 3 is when things get brutal. And I mean brutaler than before. You begin to mentally prepare yourself for the onslaught of dread that will soon follow. It begins on a frozen, barren wasteland. A herd of woolly mammoths are migrating from one place to the next, but one is struggling to catch up. A disheveled one at that. He's slower, he's beaten up, he's an elder. You're forced to watch this creature get separated from his pack with every passing second, but it feels like hours on end. He looks as if he's about to collapse and take his final breath, but Spear and Fang, how should I say this, speed up the process by bludgeoning, stabbing, mutilating every other ing in the dictionary. Yeah. Unlike the previous episode, the warthogs didn't get a tragic backstory. They do their job of getting killed and eaten by Fang, so it drives the rift between her and Spear. Yes, what they do is gut-wrenching and is a terrible thing to commit. Even Spear is aware of this. And thus, the elder mammoth dies a painful, excruciating death. A cold death, if you will. This is what I mean when primal scenes can get awfully dreadful to watch. They just go on and on. And you're just supposed to sit there and watch the life of this mammoth hang by a thread. There's a screen separating fiction and reality. You can't do anything to help. The whistling of the wind is this mammoth's only companion. When Spear and Fang gather enough fur and meat, they find shelter to keep warm for the night. However, Spear is having a hard time sleeping. In a single flashback, we see this entirely new side of him where he does indeed value life and mourns over the prey he's killed. He's not killing for the sake of it, but it's the sacrifice he has to pay in order for him and his family to survive. The episode's climax is a fierce battle between our two leads and the herd, but it doesn't end in a massacre like you'd assume. It ends peacefully, quietly. In fact, it's the herd who retreat with the remains of their fallen, who go to a graveyard in order to mourn. Episode 3 further develops Spear as a character. We understand that Fang has been able to move on from the loss of her hatchlings a lot faster than Spear, whom he is still grieving over. This is evidenced by his shadow puppets reminding him of how he entertained his children, until he can't control the shadows and has to relive the horrors he witnessed not too long ago. His trauma is ever present, looming over him, like a shadow. Would any of you believe me if I said episode 5, the most violent episode in season 1, and arguably the entire series, begins with the first half like this? This brings us to Rage of the Ape Men. Totally a fitting title for what you've seen so far. This episode features some of Primal's finest build-up, and is kind of the epitome of the show's fantastic lack of dialogue, in my opinion. After all the monsters they've battled, Spear and Fang find a beautiful, peaceful oasis to just vibe. For what feels like a first in the series, Spear gets to breathe. Not because breathing is a necessity for survival, but because he finally has a chance to live. To inhale the fresh air, bask in the warm sunlight, away from the savagery and violence. But again, this is primal. Nothing good lasts forever. At this point, the show has conditioned you to believe that there is danger lurking in every corner. You feel as suspicious as Spear during the opening scene of the episode when he's just simply walking through the jungle, alert and ready for an attack at any given moment. When he and Fang stumble upon the oasis, you too are taken aback. Sure, it looks beautiful, but there has to be a catch, right? Maybe the water's poisonous. No, seems fine. There could be piranhas. No, these fish look pretty, and Spear seems to be enjoying them. The use of wide shots and rule of thirds has to be intentional. You're searching for something, anything in the background that feels like it shouldn't be there. But no. When Spear decides to take a dip, you finally let your guard down. You feel at peace, just like him, or a little bit at the very least. But 8 minutes and 34 seconds into this 22-minute and 31-second long episode, we get this shot. You notice the slight camera shake, the leaves surrounding the frame. This isn't any shot. It's a perspective. By the time Spear notices something is up and we, the audience, get confirmation, Fang is gone, and so is Spear not long after. They both wake up and find each other tied up to partake in a battle to the death. But not just any battle. Gorillas of unusual size exist in this universe, contrary to what Wesley may say, and they are hungry for blood. A mysterious black ooze is introduced and it can turn anyone into an ungodly abomination, including Spear. He breaks free, drinks the entire thing, and what follows is quite possibly the most gruesome sequence my eyes have had to lay on. So I want you to imagine Shimmerfied Vander from episode 3 of Arcane, but if Arcane had a hard TVMA rating instead of TV-14. That's kind of all you need to know. What I'm saying is Spear in the sequence is like Vander, but if you multiply it by 6. Well, okay, all the episodes in season 1 are TV-14. I don't know why, but you should get my point. Rage of the Ape Men is a prime example of the power of contrast. Peaceful oasis, a nasty tournament to the death. Birds calling, apes screaming, water splashing, punches landing. You see what I'm saying here? We experience tranquility before the brutality, the calm before the storm. It's so still that all logic says surely nothing violent can come out of it. Yet it's quiet. Too quiet. You know something's up. The sound design during the climax of this episode is, and I hate to say it, on point. Without Spear verbally threatening the apes, or the apes begging for mercy, the sounds are amplified. Bones snap, skulls are shattered single-handedly, internal organs get twisted and splattered in unfathomable ways. Screams are the last sounds of these creatures. It's the very definition of a bloodbath. It's all pure, unadulterated agony. I got this and the ending of The Lighthouse ringing in my ears. Wow. Thanks, I hate it. Now I already skipped to episode 4, but I want to go ahead and skip to the season finale. And if you're this far ahead and haven't seen the show, you're making a mistake. I'm going to be talking about heavy spoilers, so if you click away and watch the show, I promise no harm will come to you. If you don't, I'm throwing you in the slammer. So this is your last warning. Are you sure? Okay, it's your funeral. Other civilizations exist. More advanced ones. Sorry. So you know how I said in the beginning this is a prehistoric world? Well, I may have lied. A woman wearing shackles emerges out of the water. Spear is suspicious, perhaps rightfully so, but slowly becomes passive. He builds a fire for them and everything. How sweet. She eventually realizes that Spear will not harm her, and thus the first word of the entire series is spoken.
Mira. Mira.
Mira is a slave who escaped from a mysterious group called the Scorpions. While Spear grunts and shouts, Mira speaks in fluent Arabic, with no subtitles, mind you, so it puts us in Spear's perspective as he figures out who this mystery woman is. And she's a pretty sick archer. Later, while Spear, Fang, and Mira hide out, they are ambushed by a tribe of apes, similar to the ones in episode 5. Mira gets captured, Spear bashes some brains, spills some intestines, makes a monkey kebab. It's great. It's sensational. I'm fine. Spear and Fang chase after Mira, but someone more powerful and advanced have taken her. They hear her scream, but it's too late. As the two watch from a cliff, a boat departs from the shore. A scorpion symbol on the sail is backlit from the setting sun. Realizing what that word meant, It now leaves Spear's mouth.
Mira.
Now, this video was originally going to be released alongside the Season 2 premiere, but naturally, life got in the way, and now the entire season is out. There weren't going to be any spoilers about the Season 1 twist, but now that dialogue is a bit more prominent in the series, I figured I might as well discuss it. My fear going into Season 2 was that it was going to lose a lot of its identity now that language is established in the series universe. I thought Spear was going to start monologuing about how he must save Mira or something, but no. He still grunts and ooga boogas, but he'll occasionally say Mira when he's determined to rescue her. Season 2 actually becomes more serialized as he and Fang travel to find her. We see even more advanced civilizations, so yeah, they are way behind. But the only times dialogue is used in the show is when new characters will say each other's names and speak their own languages like Old Norse and Irish, but again, no subtitles. Ooh, yes. Perfect, I like it. Love how they handle this. Until we get to episode 5. Now, I don't know if this is going to become a BoJack Horseman 11th episode situation thing, but I noticed that when it comes to Primal's episode 5s, they tend to be the most shocking out of their respective seasons. In this episode, the Primal Theory, they broke their promise. They broke the language barrier. And I was left blown away. The series decides to experiment. Now that we've gotten so used to silence, it begins to use a lack thereof. The Primal Theory is a standalone episode taking place in Victorian England? Whoa, what? Yeah, this is a thing now. And these characters we've never met before just start speaking fluent English as if we're supposed to just go along with it. Am I watching the same show? Did an episode of something else get thrown into the Primal lineup during this Warner Brothers Discovery purge? Apparently not, I guess. HBO Max had a point when they made this the thumbnail for the episode. It's quite literally the only non-spoiler frame. Alright, so where are we in jolly old England? Well, it's a dark, stormy night, and we're introduced to this room of hoity-toity Englishmen scientists listening to this theory from a man named Charles. Whoa, he name-dropped Primal. I wonder what this theory is called. Whoa, he's talking about birds now. Whoever could this be? This Charles theorizes that depending on the situation, humans have the capability to resort back to their primal instincts. Just then, the constable, voiced by the same guy as Spear, whoa,
Never did understand these educated types.
comes in to warn the men of an inmate who escaped from a nearby asylum and are told to be careful and to not go outside. So a group of people are told by authority that they must stay inside for an indefinite amount of time in order to avoid a mysterious and dangerous threat. Huh. Never heard that before. The men make a joke of it, assuming they'll be fine, but with news as life-threatening as that, you know they're not going to be. It begins with a crash heard upstairs. The butler volunteers as tribute to go up and investigate. A moment later, and again. Could it be? Charles looks up. Blood leaks from the ceiling, and I guess the Dies Irae motif does too. Okay. Honey, we got a big storm coming on top of the one already outside. Yeah. Some of the men who are brave enough go upstairs and... Oh no, not Alfred. The madman lunges at them. Could this be a descendant of Spear? Charles thinks it's barely human. I don't know, man. I'm terrified. I mean, could you blame me? Look at him. Tensions rise. The remaining men arm themselves and quietly search the place. Back to the Primal we're used to. Seriously, dude, you kidding me? And hey, it still manages to get a laugh from me. It's revealed one of the men, Darlington, was an Oxford boxing champion in his youth, and yeah, go off, man.
Let him have it, old man!
Like Mira, he's also good with a bow and arrow. But when Charles gets knocked out, it's just Darlington and the Beast. Jeez, it's intense, but the Beast's footsteps are in rhythm with the score, so I guess that's cool. As Darlington sees the madman take a bite out of Charles's arm, something inside of him changes. Something primitive. The Primal Theory has been confirmed. He reaches for a spear, rips off his fancy attire. Why is he so jacked? Jeez, man. and roars. Darlington is absolutely destroying this monster, and Charles can do nothing but watch, as his colleague, and I can only assume friend to some extent, becomes a savage right before his very eyes as he makes the final blow. Darlington seems to wake up and is horrified by what he has done, and Charles finishes the episode rather nicely.
And there you have it. You just got Union Jack.
So my greatest fear going into season 2 became true, but it paid off quite amazingly. Like the previous season's episode 5, it has an excellent use of contrast, but instead of 2 events from the same episode, it's one event with everything within it contrasted with everything else we know about the series. We're thrown into the late 1800s with no warning, dealing with snobbish and chatty British people until an asylum inmate comes around and kills or knocks them out, one by one. So why is this episode so great? Why did I decide to include it in a video essay about the very opposite? Well, I guess because Primal does a great job at doing both. Get you a man who can do both, am I right? This was a risk, and it went, shall I say, swimmingly. There still are those moments of silence where the adrenaline builds. The blood dripping into a glass of brandy or whiskey or whatever it is. The men creep along the mansion floors, either investigating or defending themselves. It's great stuff. To be honest with you, I mainly wanted an excuse to talk about this episode because I think it slaps. The series may depend on no spoken English dialogue before and after this episode, but who knew the opposite could work just as well? Perhaps it's not too bad to break the show don't tell rule once in a while. I feel like that's where I should end things. I didn't even touch upon the Plague of Madness episode because I didn't want to become too redundant, so sorry. I already spoiled enough anyway, but I will say this about the ending. Wow. I am looking forward to season 3 as it seems to be going on a different route. But if Warner Brothers Discovery makes another purge on animation and Primal's taken down with it, I'm gonna have a conniption. But now thanks to Primal, it does make me want to check out Genndy's other work, past and future. Samurai Jack looks pretty friggin' awesome. Sony Pictures Animation's Black Knight sounds interesting, and I'm looking forward to Unicorn Warriors Eternal whenever that comes out. Will I become passionate enough about these projects to discuss them in later videos? Who knows? We shall see. We shall see. I hope you enjoyed this video essay on this gore-fest of a series I'm surprised I find myself fond of. If you did, let me know, comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz, and I'll see you later.